There are countless ways to apply Rule 1, but I'm sure you understand the approach by now. So let's move ahead to the next rule, which has to do with assigning ownership of monkeys. Rule 2 of Monkey Management. Rule 2 of Monkey Management states that the dialogue between boss and staff member must not end until ownership of each monkey is assigned to a person. This rule is based on several thousand years of human experience that teaches that people take better care of things they own than things they don't. Also, if ownership of the monkey is not specified, nobody assumes personal responsibility for it, and it follows that nobody can be held accountable for it. Thus, the welfare of valuable organizational monkeys demands that they be owned by someone. Therefore, when I and one of my people are discussing a work-related issue, every monkey generated in that discussion must be assigned to one or other of us before the dialogue ends. But which monkeys go with whom? I have learned that all monkeys must be handled at the lowest organizational level consistent with their welfare. Keeping the monkeys at the lowest possible level is not, as some view it, buck-passing or abdication of responsibility. On the contrary, there are powerful, legitimate reasons for doing so. 1. My staff has more collective time, energy, and, in many cases, more knowledge for handling monkeys than I do. Managers who think they can outperform their entire staff are suffering delusions of adequacy. 2. My staff members are closer to their work than I am, and are thus in a better position to handle their monkeys. And 3. Keeping other people's monkeys out of my office is a key way to preserve some of my own discretionary time. Consequently, since my conversion, I have learned to retain only the monkeys that only I can handle. The rest of them go to my staff. I know there's a limit to how many monkeys my people can handle, so I work hard at making sure they feel free to tell me when they feel they are at their limits, as long as they bring along some recommendations for correcting their problems. But experience has also taught me that my people can often do more than I think they can, and they can sometimes do more than they think they can. If you think, as you read this, that the practice of pushing monkeys down to the lowest prudent level is easier than done, I agree. Being a reformed compulsive monkey picker-upper myself, I am as aware as anyone that there are powerful forces pushing and pulling the monkeys upward. Hindsight has revealed to me many of the reasons monkeys naturally leap upward. In my case, it was my internal personal needs that, like bananas in a tree, literally lured monkeys upward. The principal reason was that I enjoyed handling my staff's work far more than I enjoyed management. After all, I used to do that kind of work before I became a manager, and I was good at it. That's why I got promoted. So doing their work gave me a holiday from the challenges of management. This phenomenon is sometimes referred to as the executive sandbox syndrome. And at the same time, doing their work provided my staff an opportunity to watch genius at work. Even if I had been aware of all the real reasons I was picking up my staff's monkeys, I don't think I could have admitted them at the time. I now realize that I have concocted an elaborate collection of rationalizations, intellectually respectable, ego-serving reasons for doing things I had no business doing, for picking up monkeys. Have you ever heard of the following? If you want it done right, you have to do it yourself. You just can't get good help these days. This one is just too hot for my staff to handle. My boss expects me to do this one. I just want to keep my hand in. It's easier to do it than delegate it. I don't want to ask my people to do anything I'm not willing to do myself. It is not only internal personal needs that send monkeys to the wrong owners, sometimes organizational policies do it. Some companies are finding, for example, that when the responsibility for product quality is taken away from those who produce the product and given to inspectors, that monkey is on the wrong back. The final product isn't nearly as defect-free. Given these personal and organizational forces, keeping monkeys with their proper owners requires a mixture of both skill and discipline, especially discipline, for without it, skill is superfluous. Great discipline is needed to overcome the following apparent paradox in management. Sometimes when you insist on the very best in your people's work, you may encounter resistance because doing their very best often requires hard work. On the other hand, if you permit your people to do less than their best, they sometimes don't actively resist. So it sometimes seems that they would rather do less than their best. The dynamics of that apparent paradox work against the practice of keeping monkeys with their proper owners because it is sometimes easier to pick up the monkeys than deal with the problems of keeping them on the backs of their rightful owners. But beware. The paradox is only apparent, not real, as the great managers and leaders of history have taught us. The leaders we remember most appreciatively are those who knew that in the long run, other people, despite their apparent resistance, will respect you, even love you, if you help bring out the best in them. To strengthen your resolve in this regard, think back to your school days. Which teachers do you remember most fondly? The ones I remember best were a few taskmasters who pushed me to the limit to do my best. And did I ever resist the pressure? At times I thought I hated them. I think I sometimes prayed for their deaths. But I did my best for them, because deep down I knew they had my best interests at heart. Now I appreciate them above all the others, some of whom I don't even remember. In fact, I have found myself at times resenting those people who let me waste part of my life, even though it was my own fault. I demand excellence from myself, and I expect no less from my staff. I still get some resistance when I challenge them to their limits. If they resist, I listen to them. But I keep in mind the example of my teachers, and some of the other great managers I have known and heard about. When they resist, I recall the story of the farmer who, when asked by his neighbour why he was working his son so hard just to grow corn, replied, "I'm not just growing corn, I'm growing sons." Remember, the best way to develop responsibility in people is to give them responsibility. Now that you have some ideas about the discipline required to keep monkeys with their proper owners, I want to tell you about a few of my experiences that will help you improve your skill in applying the second rule of monkey management. Before I learned these things, one of my people, Gordon, was a veritable monkey factory. Every time I saw him, in hallways, cafeteria lines, elevators, parking lots, his first words to me were, "We've got a problem." Almost invariably I wound up with the monkey, and usually it was his monkey. Since then I have learned to avoid the care and feeding of Gordon's monkeys by using an anti-straddle reflex that is instantly provoked by the word "we." When I hear the phrase, "we've got a problem," I visualize a straddling monkey with one leg on my back and the other on Gordon's back. Then I remember the dangers of this posture. The monkey might get a hernia, and I might get somebody else's monkey. That mental picture triggers an instantaneous and automatic response in my central nervous system. I say to Gordon, "We do not have a problem, and we will never again have one. I'm sure there is a problem, but it's not ours. It is either yours or mine." The first item on the agenda is to neaten up the pronouns and find out whose problem this is. If it turns out to be my problem, I hope you'll help me with it. If it turns out to be your problem, I will help you with it, subject to the following condition. At no time while I'm helping you with your problem will your problem become my problem, because the minute your problem becomes my problem, you will no longer have a problem, and I can't help a person who does not have a problem. By the time I finish my little speech, the person wonders why he even brought it up. He figures he would be better off solving the problem himself than listening to me. But after the shock subsides, we discuss the problem. Then we identify next moves. I assign as many as possible to him and retain only those that are rightfully mine. This process has taught Gordon, my monkey factory, that the monkey can be owned by only one person, and that he owns it until the facts prove otherwise, and that the burden of proof is on him. For me to assume the burden of proof would be to pick up a monkey I should not have. That way the monkey never begins to straddle. It stays on Gordon's back until rightful ownership has been ascertained. If Gordon convinces me it's my monkey, I calmly and deliberately reach over and take it. If it turns out to be his monkey, I don't have to delegate it because I don't have it. He still has it. Nowadays the phrase, "we've got a problem," is seldom heard around my department. In another instance, sheer paralysis on my part taught me a valuable lesson about keeping monkeys with their proper owners. It began when one of my people, Lisa, said to me, "Boss, I've got a problem." I replied, "A problem? Be positive. There's no such thing as problems, just opportunities." She replied, "In that case, I've got an insurmountable opportunity." After a good laugh, I asked her, "What's the problem?" Lisa described her problem, but she offered no solutions. She stood there silently. I suppose she was waiting for me to tell her what to do. At that time, I was so new at monkey management I didn't know what to say or do, so I stood there, stone silent, trying to figure out what to do next. The silence grew longer. I was uncomfortable. I don't know what Lisa was thinking, but finally she broke the silence by blurting out, "Why don't I think this thing over a little longer? I'm sure I can come up with something." The discomfort of the silence caused Lisa to identify the monkey, assume and acknowledge ownership of it, and beat a hasty retreat. Although I learned that technique by accident, I have used it to good effect on other occasions. I have also learned other variations of it. In addition to silence, the discomfort that stimulates a person to snatch the monkey and run can be caused by a full bladder after several cups of coffee, or by a meeting that goes on past quitting time. I am reminded of the story I once read about how a famous person handled the problem of upward leaping monkeys in the form of incomplete work from one of his people. This staff member had not responded to any of the normal remedies, so the manager decided to try something drastic. The very next time he received an incomplete proposal from this person, he returned it with a note saying, "You're better than this." The subordinate improved and resubmitted the proposal, only to get it back the second time with another note. "Is this the very best you can do on this?" Again the person improved the proposal. This time he personally delivered it to his boss and said, "This is absolutely the best I can do on this matter." Whereupon his boss replied, "Good, now I'll read it."